Hello, welcome to another episode of Kaiju Talk. This is Jared Adams.
That's Carter Hadlow.
And we're here talking about the ups and downs of Star Wars.
So stay tuned. It's going to be a good one.
Maybe.
So confident.
As most fans of Star Wars will agree that, going back to the original trilogy, that will be always considered the best. I loved all three of those movies, but for me, The Empire Strikes Back will always be the best.
I'm kind of the weird one out on this. I think that the very first one, like New Hope, is the best Star Wars movie of all of them. Like, there's no movie of the Star Wars one that beats that, in my opinion. Empire is like the most highest rated one on IMDb in terms of Star Wars movies, and a lot of people say it's their favorite. And it's a great movie, don't get me wrong. It's a fantastic movie. I just think because the first one like wraps up as like a single standalone movie because they didn't know if they're going to make more. That's why I think it's great.
And even the way it ended on a note where you could be happy almost. That this is the way it ended. Mind you, you still probably would have wanted to know what's going to happen to Darth Vader.
Right.
Like what would have happened to Darth Vader? All he did was he flew away when the Death Star blew up. Yep. Mind you, say what you will about the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. It's still a good movie. Jedi is fantastic. And even the lightsaber fight in that movie is like really good for... Like, when you compare it to the lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in New Hope, and then Jedi only 2-3 years later, the amount of, like, choreography and stuff they've added, like, all the jumping and stuff, it's, like, way better than... Well, I will say, like, that YouTube channel that remastered this fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. I don't know if you ever saw that. Oh, yeah,
I think I saw that. Yeah,
that was pretty great. Like, I thought that was amazing. That just goes to show how fans will go to kind of create great content for other fans, almost.
Yeah.
Even in Empire Strikes Back, loved the movie, the duel between Luke and Darth Vader. I thought was great, too, Like, we all got to remember Darth Vader's basically a robot.
Basically.
Like, half
He's
a
more
robot.
Machine now than he is man.
Why his movements aren't going to be as, like, fluid as they were in, let's just go back to the prequel series, right, when he was Anakin Skywalker and whatnot. Even for non-fans like my wife, who isn't like a huge Star Wars fan, she enjoys the movies. You can watch them without being a huge fan and enjoy them, and that's what I love about Star Wars, right? Unfortunately, Star Wars has
Kathleen Kennedy.
It has its downs as much as it does its ups, and unfortunately it's a mixture of both.
You know what, I mean, to slightly argue that, I would say there's actually more ups. The problem is a lot of the really good Star Wars content kind of goes under the radar, and all the stuff that gets like thrown out to the mass public is like sort of the movies and stuff that's not quite as good. But like there's like 6 or 7 seasons of the Clone Wars, which is an amazing TV show. Like, it's really freaking good.
Let's just say we go back to the prequel series. Now, yes, we can all agree, not as good as the original. Like,
Why, you didn't think the Phantom Menace was the greatest movie ever made? Actually, Phantom Menace, in all the silly comedy Jar Jar Binks crap in that movie, it actually is a decent movie in terms of production. Like, the visuals on it are really good because it was that last sort of tying in practical effects with visual effects.
For me, I always felt that actually that movie ages quite well.
Phantom Menace?
Yeah, like, the prequel series wasn't great, mainly because... You always say this, George... Well, I don't think you always say this, but George Lucas probably shouldn't have had all the the creative control, maybe. Even though I understand it's his story. But
well, you know what, though? I mean, when you look at the prequel trilogy, the overarching story is not horrible. The story itself is good. It's the dialogue, the overuse of CG, the overuse of, like, green screen... Like, that's the stuff that makes it bad. The story itself is fine.
The lightsaber fights are
amazing. Yeah.
Like, Phantom Menace of Darth Maul.
The only one that wasn't really good was the one at the... I think what's the one where Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting Count Dooku? Is that the start of Attack of the Clones, or is that the start of Revenge of the Sith?
That was the ending of Attack of the Clones, but they do fight Dooku in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
Right. And that's one where I'm thinking of where there's, like... Who is it? Is it Obi-Wan gets, like, knocked off a ledge or something? Yeah. It's like this very obvious, like, CG double of him that's really bad. Yeah. There was some scenes that were not good.
But what really irked me through that whole series it was Anakin Skywalker was just a whiny kid.
Yeah.
Like the most, like, I couldn't believe this was the kid that became Darth Vader.
You have to just sort of infer that in between these two movies, a lot of shit happens to him and he becomes evil and angry.
The Clone Wars did definitely help
Clone Wars is amazing.
Fill in how
it made me like that version of Anakin and Obi-Wan. It actually makes Anakin into a cool character that you actually care about. I think Dave Filoni knows how to write good Star Wars content.
Yes, I do.
And so I think that's the benefit of like that show. Clone Wars and Rebels is also fantastic. Bad Batch has been really good as well. Like it's like all these sort of auxiliary shows are sort of the ups of Star Wars, whereas you get like a lot of the big things that people hear about, like the TV series, like the Obi-Wan show and the Solo movie and Rogue One. None of them are very good, to say the least. I kind of like Solo, but those are the ones that the public hears about. But the average audience member doesn't always hear about all these like sort of auxiliary TV shows, which is, in my opinion, the stuff that makes the Star Wars universe so good, because these shows are actually well written. Like after watching Mandalorian and then going back and watching Clone Wars, and it's like, you learn the entire history of all the different clans of the Mandalorians, and it's crazy. It's like there's so much depth there. It's cool.
Like I felt like Mandalorian definitely helped bring back my faith into Star Wars a bit, because
absolutely Mandalorian's been good. Yep. Both seasons were fantastic.
Andor has been great. Like I just finished Andor finally, and I felt like I wasn't watching a Star Wars story almost. I felt like I was watching a spy thriller.
Yeah, well, it's because there's no freaking Jedi. They keep wanting to go for not necessarily like a nostalgia factor, but they're always like bringing back like, let's do the Obi-Wan show, let's do Book of Boba Fett, and it's like they're trying to bring in these characters that people know and love, and then they're just writing shitty stories for them. Whereas when you have something like Andor, it's sort of like, this is a character that's like, he's in Rogue One, that's all you know of him so far, and they have this whole world to explore where it's like this whole not even Jedi related stuff, it's just a whole other side of the Star Wars universe that's totally open to explore, which is why even a show like Rebels is great, because it's like, yeah, there's Jedi in Rebels, but it's like a whole new cast of characters, whole new plots, whole new story, like a whole world of Star Wars you haven't seen before, and it's not trying to like bring in the stuff that people already know and love. They're just like creating something totally new, and that's why I think it works so well.
Well, let's just face it, Book of Boba Fett wasn't even about Boba Fett, it was just Mandalorian.
Well, I actually just finished rewatching it before the new season of Mandalorian comes out, and like, yeah, the last 3 episodes are basically just episodes of Mandalorian. Like, I think there's one episode Boba Fett's not even in the entire episode. It's like literally the whole episode's just about the Mandalorian.
Like, don't get me wrong, I thought that scene where Boba Fett's riding the Rancor was pretty amazing, actually.
Well, yeah, the thing I liked about that is like that's totally like a callback to the original Star Wars Christmas special, where it's like Boba Fett rides the Mystosaur or whatever the hell they're called.
Yeah, but
what a great name, the Mystosaurs. I think it's something like that, isn't it? Something like.
Here's the thing: I didn't hate Obi-Wan. Like I didn't hate.
Well, so yeah, it wasn't horrible. The thing is, it's like they should have just made the movie, because it shouldn't have been like a 6-part TV series. It should have been a 2-hour movie.
A buddy of mine was telling me the other day that the reason why they didn't do the movie is because of how bad Han Solo was, in terms of like, I mean, Solo, the movie,
in terms of the selling, or the how it sold or whatever. How
yeah,
it sold.
And it kind of bombed, right? And so,
which is weird, because I honestly thought it was a great movie. I've watched it numerous times. I really enjoy it every time I've watched it.
It's funny. It's funny. We have the opposite views on this. Like, you love the Solo movie. I was whatever with it. I loved Rogue One, and you were kind of like,
okay. So,
whatever.
but after watching Andor, I went back and watched Rogue One. I still don't think it's a great movie, but I appreciate it a lot more, because now it's like I'm realizing that set up a lot of what happens in Andor, or I guess Andor sets up a lot of what happens in there or whatever, right? So I have that connection with the Andor character now.
And it makes you wish Andor didn't die at the end.
I know. The thing about Rogue One, it's just like they tried to introduce this sort of ensemble cast, but it was just sort of like too many characters, and you didn't get enough background into every character, and every character was pretty one-dimensional. Like, they didn't really have much depth to them. And I think that's sort of why that movie sort of failed. It's just I didn't really connect with any of the characters.
Maybe the reason why I liked it felt like an actual like modern day war film, almost like going back to the beach scene when they're the big battle off the planet at the end. It made me feel like I was watching like the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, how intense the battle scenes were. Going back to Andor, it was the first time I actually felt that you felt how evil the Empire was. You didn't have to show Darth Vader or the Emperor. All you had to do was mention, like when the officer was saying, we've spoken to the Emperor, and like literally that's all you had to do is to show like the Emperor is around. You don't actually have to physically show them.
Exactly.
And also too, what I found interesting was how cutthroat these rebels were.
Yeah.
How we didn't.
I mean, but that's how rebellions work, right? Like, you have to be cutthroat. You have to be willing to like put in that effort to like fight them. When you look at like the original trilogy, the rebellion was sort of like, we're gonna go fight, but we're not gonna kill everyone. We're just gonna maim the bad guys and sort of be good guys, but not really bad good guys.
But it did show. But again, this was the beginning of the rebellion, right?
Yeah.
And how like bloodthirsty they were.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I get it. Like, in a way, it's just like these people have gone through things we haven't seen, right? All we see is like how broken they kind of are in a way, but that's what's fueling them to fight the Empire. And I thought that was like an interesting look at it, because even in Rogue One we didn't really see that.
Well, and I think that's what I was saying earlier, how after watching Andor it made me appreciate Rogue One a lot more, because you see sort of the side of the rebellion that you didn't get to see any time before, and you get to see all like what's actually kind of going on in the world of Star Wars that's sort of like making people hate the Empire.
I don't want to say redeeming my love for it, because I've always loved Star Wars regardless of what it is, but the problem is that I see the problems with Star Wars.
That being said, I am pretty excited for the new shows coming out. Like after having watched Clone Wars and Rebels, the Ahsoka show looks amazing. I am so excited to actually see the characters from Rebels come to life as like live action. Final thoughts on your hopes for what's coming up?
Regardless if it's good or bad, we're still gonna watch it, right? Like if it's like look at Boba Fett, for instance. Book of Boba Fett. It was not a great show, but everyone.
I hope they bring Cad Bane back. I hope he's not actually dead.
I doubt
his suit was beeping. The suit was beeping. That's the last we saw. His suit's beeping. Maybe he's still alive. We'll see.
But I guess we'll just have to see. I can't really say how I feel, what I want to see. I need to see it, right?
Yeah. Let us know your thoughts on the Star Wars universe and what you think of what is out there and what's coming up, and your hopes on the new shows, if you think they'll be good or not.
So, like as usual, like and subscribe to our channel if you want to see us do other videos on different topics, regardless of what they are, in terms of film or TV. Just make a comment.
We'll see you in the next one.